Thanks a lot, Jenil, for the session.
Thank
It
you.
was great having you here at Polygon Hacker House. I just want to start off with a couple of questions.
Sure.
Right. So, what was the pivotal moment that got you into the Web3 space?
Yeah, so I worked as a research assistant when I was in college, and I kind of wanted to get a PhD right after. So I tried to work on research for the most part, and while I was working on research, I got introduced to Ethereum, and that was a part of my job as an assistant to my professor, because that's what they got a grant in. So I guess that at that point I got really interested in Ethereum and Web3 in general when I was in my second or third year of college. And once I graduated, I worked with numerous Web3 projects as a developer, and that got me even more interested. I participated in hackathons, and that was sort of the moment where I was like, I'm going to work on this.
Awesome. What were these hackathons? What did you make?
Yeah,
there?
so I worked on a lot of ETH Global's hackathons, Devfolio hackathons. We ended up building. So I worked on a company called Zero Chain, which was a decentralized storage platform, and I worked on integrating Ethereum to their delegated proof of stake ecosystem. I also worked on Luxo, which was started by Fabian Vogelsteller, and he was one of the co-creators of Ethereum, and he also co-authored ERC20 token contract. So talking to him also inspired me. And then when we were participating in hackathons, we worked on a project called Ship. And Ship was a way to create projects and get funding and get options on projects. So we used Open for that. And you can even earn interest using Compound and Aave.
Oh, nice.
So that was one of the projects I worked on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So when did you get the idea of Coinwise, and how did that kind of happen?
Yeah, so I worked with Fabian, and Luxo is sort of in that space since 2017, maybe before that. And in 2020, we started to see a lot of like startup teams were getting smaller and smaller. And if you sort of boil that down to one person, we saw like creators building an entire community around them. We were even seeing a lot of Discord communities spun up, even outside of Web3, just for that particular creator. And Web3 was really interesting in the sense that you can now have sort of ownership distributed, created and distributed to your community members, and they can have a say in what the creator is doing and create a more meaningful relationship or parasocial relationship between them. So that's when we started working on it.
Awesome. So since we're talking about Coinwise, what are some amazing like social token use cases that you have been seeing or you think you'll see in the future, right?
I think like one of the most interesting use cases that we're seeing right now is NounsDAO, which is continuous NFT auctions, which is really interesting. I'm really interested in seeing, exploring use cases where tokens are continuously distributed in different ways. The way we sort of say it is like decentralized at the speed of participation. And there's a lot of examples, JokeDAO, NounsDAO, a lot of them are doing that in really unique ways. So even, I mean, there's, I know Llama is working on forking NounsDAO to build pronouns, which is also a similar framework. So I'm interested in seeing more of those use cases with creators than, at least going forward.
Awesome. And what are some amazing DAOs that you're part of, and why is like community that important for DAOs?
Yeah, I think like Web3 is so very open, right? And it's transparent. So if you are building a project, it's very simple to like sort of recreate that own project with like little funding and a team and a story behind it. So it's like, how do you create or how do you build a strong project otherwise when everything is so open, right? So like community is one of those ways where before in Web2, they used to say like, if you like build a brand and trust over a certain period of time, it's really hard to copy and paste trust, right? But I think community is very similar in Web3. If you have like a project where even a small group of people are really interested about your project, I think that ends up being your target users, and that ends up being like your strong like moat that you create around your project. So
1,000 true fans.
Yeah,
makes sense. So since we are at the Polygon Fellowship Hacker House, what do you think of initiatives like these, and what other initiatives can we do to help the developers get into the ecosystem and build more projects? I
think like Devfolio and Polygon Hacker, I mean, you guys have created like one of the most like fascinating like launchpad for these people. Like I've never seen, I've been to like a few hackathons, but I've never seen anything to this scale yet. So it's definitely like useful when, you know, developers get all the like right resources, mentorship and operations. Like most developers enjoy writing code and product design. operations is the worst, or at least the most difficult part that nobody enjoys doing. So I think communities like DevFolio, Polygon Hacker House, they can sort of help these like projects at least alleviate some of these like problems, so that they can just focus on building out their idea, and you can just match like like the right people to talk to, so you can like match them with the right mentors, like you did for this one, and then once you do that, then they can sort of like build from there.
How can these developers make the most of the opportunity that's given to them at the Hacker House? And
I think the best way to do is just build it in open. Just talk a lot about your project, because that's just like bat calling for the right people. And it'll ultimately attract the people that that will end up like supporting the project. So if you're building something here, like make the most out of like people that are helping you, or like whatever that you need for your project to become like at least like usable beyond like a hackathon grade project. I think like most of some of these projects end up being like hackathon grade websites, and they just stop there.
Not industry grade.
Right. So now like these developers have the right resources, so I think they should like try to make the most out of it and create something like really well built, and work on like putting it out for other people to use.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you
This
so
was
much.
great.